Hey, it's Frankie Finn here, and today I'm going to show you something really awesome, which is how we got 20 times more leads using something I call the ladders of positioning. And what's interesting about this for you is this one little 10-second shift in this ladders of positioning actually got us 20 times more leads, same ads, same content, really doing the same shit. So what would it mean for you if suddenly just overnight that 20 times as many people responded to your stuff, and you had all that certainty of knowing that once you got this lesson dialed in, you could use it predictably again and again? So I'm going to show you exactly how that works today. Now, if you've been with me on some training before, a little bit of this may be a refresher, but I still want you to watch it because I'm going to actually take you behind the scenes and show you how we actually created it in our business. So the first question I have for you before we get started is, are you putting in the right inputs? Because what happens is, when you go out there and create an advertisement, is the general public often only has that advertisement to make an assessment about you and your capability. So are you putting it in? By the way, that's some awesome dancing, by the way. My man Putin right there. Not really my man. But anyway, so I have a question for you right now. How do your leads perceive you? Because one of the things that they're really subconsciously evaluating you is your status in terms of, is this person expert? Is this somebody who can help me? Or is this just another dime a dozen person? And for many of these people, what's important to understand is that perception is reality. When they see you in an advertisement, they have that advertisement and only that advertisement to make a judgment on you. And so in many ways, the flow of money towards you and your business in the form of new customers and new business is really about belief. Belief that you are the best expert at what you do. And I'm going to show you how to create that belief in other people really, really quickly. And what it really involves more than anything else is having a reputation that precedes you. So like one of the business I know that, for example, really took off over the last year, they really made one single shift, and it is they got really good at Google reviews. Okay, so they were still getting the same visitors to the website that they were before and the same SEO traffic, and they were doing the same stuff. But what happened is that business, I think it like 3 or 4 times grew in just one single year. And all that really changed is what happened is, well, when they have, 100 4.8 star reviews on Google before somebody even hits their website, they've been influenced to believe them. Their reputation has preceded them. And so there's a very strategic way you can do this online. And so first I want you to really think about your positioning and status, because if you want to be like this, where you're like, I'm rich, bitch. By the way, that was Dave Chappelle back in the day, was awesome. So, are you really positioning for premium clients? And there's really only 2 reasons if you're not doing this already. The first is you just think you're not worth it. You need to, be in business 10, 20, 30 more years before you're ready. I can tell you that's nonsense, by the way. And the much more common reason is if you think you do, you raise your prices, people just aren't going to pay them. You're going to scare everybody away. And I'm going to show you it's actually very, very easy, because it's just a little 10-second shift in perception. But you ever heard this saying, you get what you pay for? So I got the $150 tattoo and the $1,500 gorilla tattoo. Well, you get what you pay for, right? And so what we sometimes forget is that there's always a segment of the population that's willing to pay more and happy to pay more to get something better. And usually we find it's about 20% of people. So if you do this wrong, this is what your experience is going to be. And if you've had this now where you get the cheapskates everywhere, where they nickel and dime you and they ask how much as the first question and they treat you as a commodity, and they're kind of, you can feel them like, sell me, they kind of have that attitude like, sell me there, big boy, tell me why I need to work with you. And it just puts you in the chasing mode instead of in the expert mode of being able to actually help people. So when you get this right, I mentioned one of my friends, Ted, got his positioning dialed in, now is doing $20,000 a month in a brand new business. One of my clients, Carl, we did this for him. He made $100,000 in a month that he had never previously made, which is pretty damn exciting for him. Another one of my clients, Brad, brand new plastic surgeon. Usually they're pretty much broke for 2 years, meaning, nobody's calling a brand new surgeon. We ended up getting him so busy that all his colleagues and stuff took notice. It was crazy, the amount of peer pressure. And of course, for me, we ended up doing $50K in 2 weeks just by shifting largely this positioning. But if you do this wrong, you're going to end up with the cheapskates who think you're just another blank and have the attitude that you're replaceable, and it's not fun dealing with those people. So there's 3 levels of positioning, and again, this will be a refresher if you've seen some of my other stuff, but I'm going to, after I give you this refresher, I'm going to take you behind the scenes and show you how we actually created it so that you can do this for your business. So Jerry Generalist is how most people advertise. I would say about 95% of businesses, when they advertise, they do this. They basically have a list of what they do. Here's everything we do. Call me. And what this, kind of inadvertently does is, remember, again, this advertisement is all I have to judge this person on. So to me, he looks like just somebody who does the same crappy flooring and plumbing and electrical and painting that everybody else does. So if I have a really important drywall job, am I going to bring it to a guy who also is flushing toilets? Probably not. But if I have a really important plumbing job, am I going to bring it to a guy who also does electrical? Probably not. So here's another level, and I pulled this again from a local classified site. This is bathroom remodeling. Again, so this guy, simply by specializing in bathroom remodeling, even though I'm sure he can do all the same shit as the last guy, going to get more money in the process because, he's going to get better, higher-end bathroom jobs. And so what I want to show you, this is an example using legal. I think I mixed up my slides here, put them in the wrong order. But anywho, so this is what I see with a lot of lawyers. And even if you're not in either of these businesses, if you're not a handyman, if you're not a lawyer, the same principle applies because 95% of the people in your business are advertising this way. So this is a lawyer who's advertising 3 different areas of practice at once. So they do divorce, personal injury, and estate planning. Now, if somebody has like $1 million personal injury case, do you think they're going to bring it to somebody who also did a will that morning and is doing a divorce? Probably not. So this is a real website. I just changed the sensitive info. Here's another one. This is a guy who just does personal injury. So it's more like a specialist. But this is the one I want you to pay attention to because I'm going to explain to you how I discovered this and how actually easy this is to implement in just a second. So this is the third level we call Cedric Celebrity Authority, and he just has a smug looking face, doesn't he? So what's interesting if you go to this guy's website is he's being interviewed and he's on this news set and he's the expert and he's sharing this great info. And what's interesting about it is I'm 95% sure that the people interviewing him is his secretary. So meaning he didn't wait for the TV news crew to roll up and say, you're an expert, tell us how great you are. He just said, secretary, come here, you're going to interview me. And that's very, very interesting. So when you do this wrong, you're going to do this variation. This is what most businesses are doing, and it does not matter what field you're in, is they're advertising their business name, they list everything they do, and then a generic slogan, and then call me. And if you do that, you're going to have miserable results like the 95%. When you do this right, you're going to do something what legendary marketer Seth Godin calls the purple cow, which is imagine you're driving down the street and you see a purple cow. Well, which one of these cows are you going to notice? Of course, it's the one who's different, right? So a lot of this is about being what's different. So let me tell you how I discovered this. I was reading a book by a guy named Russell Brunson, which is called .com Secrets, highly recommended. And he talked about in the book how he was speaking in front of all these crowds and he found his sales to be really unpredictable. So one time he would sell, hundreds of thousands of dollars of his course in a couple of minutes. And another time he would have crickets, tumbleweed. And so he kept thinking, maybe it's the crowd, maybe it's my delivery. And he kept trying all these things. And one day another speaker said to him, was really good at this, I want you to pay attention to how the person introduces you. And so he started paying attention and he noticed whenever the person said, hey, this is Russell, he's cool, he's going to teach you some cool stuff, and gave this very low enthusiasm, he's not really an expert kind of perception, that he didn't sell anything. And then he found that when a person gave a really high energy, this is Russell Brunson, he's a genius, he's taught me so many things, blah, 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 that his sales went through the roof. And it had everything to do with how he was being introduced. And that's interesting because it means it had everything to do with how his reputation preceded him. And so what Russell ultimately did is when he discovered this, is he made his own 3-minute intro video and made sure that intro video always introduced him. And he found when he did that, his sales completely leveled out and became predictable. So after having read this book, I decided that this had to be true. And what I had been doing is we were testing the lawyer market, and I had been distributing content, and I'd get a couple of leads every time we distribute it. And so I'd make these videos, and they wouldn't necessarily get the response I was hoping for. So I went on a little website called Fiverr. And if you've never heard of Fiverr before, it's a bunch of stupid shit you can buy for $5, but on there's some useful shit too. And I had a guy who was a radio voiceover. And I basically gave him a script and said, introduce me like this. And so I paid him $5, the big $5, and I had him introduce me as a badass. And what I noticed as soon as I did that, our results actually went up 20 times. So I went from getting like a couple of leads to I would get hundreds and hundreds. And I even tested a piece of content that I had distributed that I remember had gotten exactly 5 leads. and I decided to do the same content, and I changed nothing about it except I slipped in 10 seconds of intro from this radio voiceover guy, and immediately I got 100 leads from the same content, just posting it on LinkedIn, doing this completely free. So 20 times the results. And once I realized that that was such a big factor, we incorporated that into everything we were doing, and the 20x result became our norm instead of the baseline. So after reading this, I started wondering, this celebrity status how is this created? And so I was watching one of these stupid Jimmy Fallon, which is probably wondering why his goofy face is on this slide. And here's what I noticed with Jimmy, is they would say, it's one of those things, I guess. Let me first tell you, is everybody knows celebrities, what a celebrity is, but nobody ever asks, like, how do celebrities become celebrities? And what I noticed is it's all reputation. So right before the commercial break, somebody like Jimmy Fallon would say, the star of the new hit movie, Frankie Finn, coming up after the break, stick around. And then right after the break, they would introduce that person again. They would say, the star of the new hit movie, it's Frankie Finn. And then the crowd would start clapping, and they would put their hands together. And what I noticed between being introduced before the commercial, again after it, and having the crowd applaud, that 3 different times, that person's reputation has preceded them before they even spoke, and their status has been elevated. Now, you'll notice at the beginning of this video, we got a stupid little jingle, and it just shows me speaking on stage in front of a crowd, and that is actually this principle right now, because we're putting this positioning in there, and we found that even though it's a stupid little thing, it does in fact increase response 20 times, because it makes me seen as an expert, right? Which is why that's done very strategically. So this is really, really important to you, because when you create advertisements to ultimately bring people to you and to get new people, what most people don't think about is that person has no basis for how to perceive you. And so anything you can do to put that status in front of you will massively, massively increase your response. So I actually had a client who, in Jacksonville, I charged $15,000 a day to do consulting. I went down to meet with him in Jacksonville, and he runs a lot of TV advertisements in Jacksonville. He's the 800-pound gorilla of TV there. And so everywhere we went, it was like I was walking with Elvis. People were like asking for autographs and taking photos of us eating, and cars would honk and stop at him on the street. It was ridiculous. But what's interesting is that if he drove 20 miles down the road, nobody knows who he is. And so this status thing, it is even easier to do on the internet, because it's really just a 10-second shift of having your reputation precede you. So I want you to think about, as you're watching this, is how can you make it so that your reputation precedes you? Maybe it's Google reviews for you, or maybe it's like I did with a 10-second introduction, or maybe it's like Russell Brunson where you have a 3-minute video. But the more you can do to intentionally create your reputation before you speak, the more you'll find that getting leads and getting sales and getting customers dramatically improves. And you know what most people don't realize is this effect can be replicated on purpose. It's actually very easy to do. It's cheap, and it dramatically improves results. That's the bottom line. So where are you now? If you're going to go out and apply this, how do your people see you now? Are you the Jerry Generalist? Are you the Steven Specialist? Are you the Cedric Celebrity Authority? And are you positioning for the premium clients? Because I promise you, this little 10-second shift of creating a reputation that always precedes you, that makes you perceived as a badass, will make all your lead generation and all your advertising not only work much better, but work much faster for you. So I hope you really dig this. I hope you're picking up what I'm throwing down. So if you're watching this on YouTube, leave me a comment. And Frankie Finn, may the force be with you.